Hi, welcome to Teen Talk New York. I'm your host, Marritina, and this is my guest for today, Calvin.
How you doing?
So, today's topic that we're going to be discussing is anxiety. Student anxiety, just anxiety overall. So, Calvin, how do you feel about anxiety?
Well, I mean, as teens and as students, we go through a lot. I mean, sometimes it's hard for people to understand what we go through as teens living like in this day and age in our era. Because usually back then, well, back in the old days, I'll say probably like the 90s, the 80s, the 70s, for our parents and, our teachers, things were easy, Things were dealt with like it was a village that took care of us. But nowadays, we don't have that village. So as teens, it's a lot that we go through that we feel that we can't talk to most people about. So let's say, for instance, like if I'm having issues inside school with like somebody bullying me, which I rarely have, but like if somebody's bullying me, or I'm having problems with students, talking about me, or certain things like sex and all that, like there are certain topics as teens that we don't feel comfortable talking about with our elders, because we feel that if we talk about it with them, then they'll look down on us. And that's why certain people go into like suicidal moments, and certain people drop out of school, certain people turn down the wrong path. And it's not because that people want to, but at the end of the day, it's more of a personal standpoint of that, I feel that I can't trust nobody, and I think that's where anxiety kicks in.
Yeah, honestly, I feel where you're coming from, because a lot of kids don't know who to talk to, and they don't have anybody to talk to. So just being neglected and not having that one person they can go to, it really affects them. So, they lash out and they do crazy things. It all falls apart.
And I mean, everything starts at home and it starts young. I mean, for myself, when I was 9, I was separated from my mother. And I mean, I had got abused by my mother. And it wasn't, I took it as abuse, but it wasn't necessarily abuse. I mean, it was just her, disciplining me. But I felt like it was because I've had troubles from when I was a little kid with my parents. My parents never used to get along. So I would have trouble trying to even find like this love in the household that I would be living in day by day, 24/7. And I felt like I couldn't trust anybody in my house. So, I mean, like, with me, mostly, I mean, most of my troubles come from home. So it's not like I'm one of those kids, one of those statistics that just use certain every excuse to, find a way to get out of things. But my thing is that I have a hard time trusting people. And most of my anger and most of my pain and most of my troubles with speaking to people and letting them know that, like, I'm smart and I'm intelligent and I can do certain things, but I just don't have, the ability to come out and talk to certain people because I don't feel that, that person has my trust.
All right. Well, how do you feel about being, like, under pressure in certain situations?
It depends on the situation. So
let me give you, like, a scenario. Let's say your friends are like trying to push you to do something you don't want to do. So they're putting you under pressure. Well, if you don't do it, this is what's gonna happen. If you do it, you're gonna be cool with us. But if you don't, it's like you have to decide on whether right or wrong, or whether you want your friends or not. Like putting you under that pressure to, whether lose your friends or just be good by yourself and
I mean, it's funny that you say that because when I was 14, I had got introduced to weed, and what had happened was like, I was with a group of friends, and those are my friends, and still to this day, they're still my friends. I'll never forget where I came from, and I'll never forget who had my back when I was down. But they were smoking, and how peer pressure goes, it's like,
right.
Like, we cool and all, so come join us, or like we feel some type of way. So I ended up in feeling type of way, and so I started, and it kept going and going. And I mean, at the time, it felt like I knew that I was wrong, but it was just like those are my friends.
Right.
And at the end of the day, I couldn't turn to nobody in my house. I couldn't turn to nobody that I actually knew, but those are the only people I could turn to. So I'd rather, fall down with my friends rather than, be up by myself and be, like isolated. That's what I felt at the time. But growing up, with age comes wisdom. And as I got older, I started to look at, the mistakes I made and all the peer pressure that I have fell under. And I mean, there's been many occasions where I've been in peer pressure with gangs, people trying to recruit me and all. And for certain people, you have to be mentally strong.
That's a fact.
So there has to be some type of mental strength inside you to to say no to peer pressure. And I mean, it's hard now because everybody wants to be in some type of clique. Everybody wants to be around
everybody's
certain
trying to
people.
fit in, trying to be in the same.
And it's like if you're not in with a certain crowd, then you're by yourself. And when you're by yourself, that's the most dangerous position that you could be in. That's known to teens right now, because when you're by yourself, there's nobody else to surround you. There's nobody else to watch your back. And that's what to certain teens is most important nowadays.
So I want to ask you, when did you realize that you had it, like you didn't need to feel like anybody needed to accept you for you? You already accepted yourself.
I think that would have possibly been when my uncle died. And that was one of the most hardest things for me, because I mean, watching somebody die is the hardest thing. But the conversations that me and him shared, it taught me how to be a better man. And certain things that I spoke to my uncle about, I can't speak to my father about. And I mean, those little conversations mean so much to a person. And what was it? I'll say about 2 weeks ago, because I had gotten suspension. I had a conversation with the AP and my principal and the rest of the staff that was here, and for me, it's guidance. It's all about guidance, because the former principal from Boys and Girls, which is Bernard Gasway, that was my mentor. So when he left, I couldn't turn to nobody. But for me being moved upstairs, like still being in the same environment with different people, I felt like guidance was the only thing I needed. And once I got guidance, I could be strong on my own. So it's not a need of having friends to be around, people surrounding you, you feeling that love and respect. First of all, my love and respect comes from God. So I tend not to need anybody, even though I want people around. Everybody likes to have friends, but my love comes from God. So at the end of the day, I know that even if I don't have a friend physically, I know I have a friend spiritually. So I feel that everything that I can encounter, I still have that friend upstairs that'll always hold me down no matter what. So I really don't feel the need to be into peer pressure anymore. It's like fall under it, because I know that at the end of the day, I have faculty that's around that can help me, and I have God.
Listen, I know you're upset, but it was just one date. And dating's like the stock market. There's ups and downs and ups and so always buy low.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who would love to put up with you.
All right, welcome back from break. Now we're still going to be talking about the same topic we were, and that is student anxiety.
Well, Marritina, I wanted to ask you a couple questions, because you interrogated me. So, and as a female, how difficult is it to be a female like this day and age as a teen?
It's very difficult being a female. I feel like we get pressured into so many things, and we get held to these standards that a lot of people perceive us to be. A lot of guys think that girls are supposed to be this certain way that they're like imagined to be, but we're really not. For me, I feel like females in general, are supposed to be able to do anything. We put our mind to something, we can do it. We can do it any better as a guy can do it, And just growing up, I learned that. My father was very abusive. My father, he would be very strong-minded, and he would try to raise me as a woman, but as a guy as well. So he would raise me to have a guy mindset, but also carry myself as a woman. But growing up, you know, I had, you know, my aunts around and, you know, my uncles and cousins, all of that. So I would talk to them and they would, you know, tell me how this is what's up, this is what's going to happen if you do this. You know, basically just the consequences of your actions. I think, you know, being a female, it's very hard because we don't have the same things as a guy has. We don't have the same opportunity as a guy has. You know, especially being biracial, you know, some people, oh, you're black and Hispanic, is like, oh, this and that. It's just kind of, it just falls into another category. You know, everybody's categorized as something. So are women, so yeah.
And with the adversity that you face as a female, how do you overcome it? Like, are you able to face your obstacles, and what do you tell other females that you know that go through certain situations as you know? How do you tell them to face that adversity? How do you tell them to be strong?
You know, it's all in the power of the mind, because mind is over body. If you have a strong mind, you can just do anything. As long as your mindset is strong, you know, you can do anything. As long as you think positive and know what you want in life and you don't let others affect you. You can't let the outside world affect inside here, because a lot of kids get that all mixed up. And a lot of females that go through a lot, you know, let that outside affect them. I can tell you I'm mentally strong, because the things I've been through is really crazy. You would be surprised to actually know that, you know, my mother, she's not mentally strong. My mother, she's been on a few things, you know. My father, he has been as well. My father is a drunk, he's an alcoholic. So, you know, that all just came into place. You know, he would do things to me, you know, that would just make me like, dang, what did I do to even deserve this? Like, why would you yell at me for this, or why would you hit me for this? You know what I'm saying? It was just always physical. It was always physical or verbal. It was never nothing crazy, you know. But then I just grew up to know, like, I don't care about what you say. I don't care about what you're telling me, because at the end of the day, I know what I'm going to become in life, and I know what I want in life. And regardless if you want me to, you know, be this way or not, I'm still going to do it, just because I feel like I deserve better. I can be better. You don't need to tell me anything. The one thing I could really tell women and just females in general is to just be strong, because fighting this out would be so sweet at the end when you put in all this work and just the time. You know, you got to start somewhere to become something big. You know, something small can get bigger as you grow with it. You know, you guys got to be strong and carry yourself well. You know, and don't have other people tell you what you should be. Know what you want to be, because what other people want you to be, that's not what you might want to be. You feel me? Just take care of yourself and make sure you know what path you want to go down, and just set goals for yourself.
And I commend you as a female for staying so strong. You talk about, you know, physical, and I wanted to get back. I wanted to actually speak on dating violence, and, you know, like, as into like relationships and, you know, like abuse in a relationship, because, you know, as young men, we and this is for almost every young man, because every young man has this feeling once in a while. You know, we feel that, like, as men we're strong and, like, we're overbearing. So, you know, it's always that stereotype of, oh, can't no female tell me what to do. You know, like, if we're in a relationship, you know, you're mine and that's it. And it's always the other way around. It's always vice versa, because there's females out there
they're doing it to men. Yeah. I understand.
So how do you feel about domestic violence in a relationship?
You know, I can't really say. I mean, I've witnessed it, but I can't say, you know, I've been in any abusive. I would never be in no abusive relationship. Let me see. I think you're not a man if you put your hands on a woman generally. Like, that's a fact. That's right there. You're not a man if you put your hands on a woman. You should never put your hands on a woman. And I learned that from growing up. My father wasn't a man. He's like, just because you put your hands on me, what's that supposed to do? What's that supposed to change? You feel like you're more of a man if you do that? Like, so many times, I would just be like, I'd be so tired, you know, just arguing with my father, just be like, what you gonna do, hit me? What you gonna do, punch me? And he would not know how to respond, you know. He would just be like, you know. But at the end of the day, I feel like you shouldn't be putting your hands on a woman generally, you know, unless, but, you know, but you have to learn how to communicate, because communication is everything. Just learn how to talk, and, you know, just sit down with your girl and really find out what the problem is, because putting your hands on somebody, what's that going to even solve? You know,
I feel that there's, sorry to cut you off, but I feel that there's an undefined line of mutual respect in a relationship that certain people shouldn't cross. You know, that anyone shouldn't cross. You know, I mean, and there's different types of, you know, dating violence. There's cyber violence, you know, as to, like, you know, Facebook, Instagram, you know, phone passwords and everything. And then there's verbal, you know, putting someone down, telling them they ain't nothing, that they're not going to be nothing, that they ain't worth nothing. And then, you know, there's physical. For me, mostly, and I'll be honest with this, I've been in that type of relationship where I've had to defend myself before, and it's no like, and I don't say that I've been justified for hitting a woman in her arm, but it's been points where I've been come at with weapons, and it's been for me from the outside looking in, because I always told myself that I would never be my father, and I would never put my hands on a female. You know, and that's just me, and I don't like the whole, like, you know, hitting thing. If you're in a relationship, for one thing, and that's, you know, make each other happy and have a good time.
You know, not to cut you off, but that's not also what a relationship is. That's not what it is. When you're in a relationship, I feel like there's a bond. You guys are in sync. You know, there's a reason why you're together. You know, it is for happiness. You know, it's not really just for fun, but it's just to really have somebody that you can actually say, yo, this is my companion right here. You know, I believe in all of that. I just think that being in a relationship, you're finally about to just say, yo, this is my person that I'm about to be serious with real quick, you know what I'm saying? Then later on, I'm going to marry this person. So
I feel, but in our day, it's people tend to rush into things. That's why I say, you know, just relax for a while. You know, get to actually know the person before you get in depth.
Yeah.
Because once you get in depth, then, you know, like, when you're able to find that person and say, you know, like, that's my rock, that's my ride or die, that's my girl. You know, like, that's my companion. That's someone I feel like I can see myself with in, you know, like, the next 5 to 10, 15, 20, so on and so forth. But as of this day right now, we don't take the time to actually get to know people, you know.
Yes.
And with social network and everything and all the new technology, there's no type of communication at all.
Really?
And, you know, people feel that, like, you know, like, certain relationships fail because people don't want to see each other. I mean, yeah, you can FaceTime, you can Skype, you can Google, whatever. But at the end of the day, you know, relationships are built on face-to-face connections. Yes. Relationships are built on, you know, understanding where one person is coming from, what one person does. It's not like, oh, I meet you one day and then we just jump into a relationship
the next day. Yeah.
I mean, certain things like that don't work. Certain relationships like that do. But at the end of the day, it depends on how well you know a person.
And it depends on, you know, who you are.
Yeah.
But, you know, let's wrap this up. This conversation was great. I love this topic and I love talking to you. I'm really glad to have you on this show.
Thank you for letting me on the show.
Anytime. But to wrap this up, guys, and just some final thoughts, just don't fall under peer pressure. Don't fall under any circumstances whether you feel like you're going to be weak. Always have a strong mindset.
And be able to love yourself.
Of course.
Because if you don't love yourself, nobody else will.
Alright. Well, that's it. I'm your host, Marritina, and this is Teen Talk New York. You guys have a good one.